Hey there, fellow prog noggins. I am Dave. This is Bleeding Edge. So, we are deep into the first month of 2026. The previous year is behind us. It's time to take stock of the past while turning an eye towards the future, both the immediate and, the little bit remote future, not too far down the road. I got a few things on my mind that I want to talk about, and I have a favor to ask of you, the viewer. So I'll keep this as short as possible, which I don't think should be too hard. But, Lord knows I can talk, as there aren't really too many things I need to talk about, but some things I feel that were important to review. So that said, let us get started. Now, first, reviewing the reviews. As you folks may know, if you followed me long enough, or you may not know if you're newish to this, I started doing album reviews for 2025. That was a new thing. The channel was founded primarily for interviews, but I recognize, of course, that interviews for prog artists, they're available when they're available. There's no far advanced planning for it. It's not a regular type of flow that you have. It is a sporadic flow. You get a bunch at once, then you get none for a long time. It's up and down, it's back and forth. You never know. So it's, as I would like to say it, it's sporadic. It's unpredictable. It's inconsistent. So I figured, one, I had a new job, a new full-time paying job. This does not pay, of course. And that job was changing my schedule, making it very difficult for me to interview artists on the other side of the world, of which there are a lot of them in the prog world. So that was going to be a cutback. It didn't turn out to be as much of a cutback as I thought it was going to be in the long run. I actually got a decent amount of interviews this year. But I figured I needed something else to beef up the channel, to keep some content coming your way. So I started doing album reviews. Figured, because why not? You know what? It's a good way to have continual fresh content. It's a good way to make sure that there's always something to talk about. Figured, hey, you know what? I'll probably get to hear more albums than I otherwise might have done, because it's, a lot of albums come out, a lot of things happening. I didn't necessarily listen to full albums all the time as much as I would listen to songs. So I thought, hey, this would be a cool exercise. I think this will be good. It'll be something new to do. Certainly there is a demand for it. So I went forward with that. And amazingly, I kept pace through most of the year. There were a couple of breaks here and there, once or twice. The interviews kept coming, kept things spicy. That's fine. I dropped most other content. I hoped to have a lot of other things that were going on. But, with a full-time job and this on the side and a busy social life, sometimes it's hard to keep up producing stuff, and especially because I tend to, you might think, maybe possibly, some might think, overproduce things, and I am literally a one-man show. All social media, all writing, all scripting, all reaching out for interviews, all editing, both the videos and the audio version for the podcast and the thumbnails and all. That's all me. And I think that is for most of the creators out there on YouTube. I don't honestly know. I never asked. So, but anyway, that's all me. And so it takes a bit of time. So it is what it is. Jumped into the album review pool. How did it turn out? Well, this is time for me to take a moment and, as objectively as I can, review myself as I would review an album. So looking at it, I tried to do something a little unique, a little different from what others were doing. That was my rating system with the 4 categories: the intellectual, innovative, technical, and emotional. It is, I think, a fairly interesting idea. I thought it worked out fairly well. It was pretty solid. It was meant to be able to, one, make it easy to tabulate things at the end of the year and rank albums. Just go back and look at my ratings and put them in order. And, adjust a little bit here and there. It was meant to give me something to focus on when I'm talking about the albums. I'm not a musician, so I can't exactly talk to any great detail about the way the music is played, other than through the ears of a fan. And I'm a so-so writer at best. I'm going to admit that right here now. So I did what I could. And, it gave me something to focus on. And it gave me a little bit of a hook, something different from what others were doing. And in the end, kind of created a little bit of accountability for me to stick to what I rated. So, it worked out kind of okay. Got some pretty good feedback on the ratings, and especially, at least I know of one person who very much liked the enjoyment modifier, which I kind of came up with because I felt at times when maybe on occasion I would objectively review an album and go, wow, that score seems a little lower than what I think it should be. So, okay, let's adjust that. Keeping up with all of that on a weekly basis is a lot harder than you might think it is. Turned out to be a lot more difficult than I thought it was, because not only did I need time to write my thoughts down and notes down for recording the review, I needed to record the review, but I needed to, my goal was always to listen to each album no fewer than 5 times. And believe it or not, with my life scheduled the way it is and the things I've got going on, that was hard. It was hard making the time to do it. And it was difficult for my ADHD brain to stay focused on the album while I was listening to it, to just sit with it and hear it and listen to it. Sometimes I would listen while I'm driving. Well, attention is divided then. Sometimes I would try to lay in bed and listen. Then if I'm lucky, I didn't fall asleep. And other times I might be sitting here in my office/studio listening, and I would be distracted. The phone, the computer, looking at stuff, looking up stuff, and I would lose track. So there was a challenge. And keeping the pace week after week after week honestly became very difficult. That's why I took a couple of breaks here and there, because I did need to rejuvenate on occasion. I had things going on here and there that got in the way. And I just, there are people out there that I see putting out 3 album reviews per week. I don't know how you do it. I have no idea how you keep up with it. You guys amaze me. I got feedback from one guy in the comments section about how he had listened to 500 albums. 500. There's only 365 days a year. That means, on average, you're having to listen to 1.5 albums per day. I don't know how you remember it. I don't know how you have time to absorb it. I don't know how it sticks in your brain enough to talk about it or write about it later. Dude, kudos to you. I am either seriously, desperately impressed or more than a little bit skeptical. I don't know. But if you can do that, you got more brain space and time than I do to do it. So it was hard. It was not an easy thing to do. Turns out in the end, I'm not quite sure if it was really successful helping me to get to know the albums better or not. In some ways, I feel on some occasions it did, but on other occasions, no, not exactly. It was so much, and as soon as I got to know something, I was on to something else, and then I was on to something else. So getting time to go back and re-listen to albums that I enjoyed and wanted to hear more of again wasn't often there. So the memory would erode. So, in the end, how did I do? How do I grade myself? Well, let's see. Let's apply my system to it for rating albums. As far as the intellectual, okay. I might give myself a 3.75. That was one of the things I learned along the way, is my scores. If I stuck to just whole numbers, I got a lot of the same scores. And then when I started broadening it up to fractions a little bit, especially beyond 3.5 and into the quarters, that helped a lot. But I still ended up finding that most of my scores, the vast majority of my scores, landed between a 3.5 and a 4, maybe a 4.25. Nothing much higher than that, except maybe 1, and nothing much lower than that, maybe 1 or 2. And I felt really harsh doing it. So intellectual-wise, I think I did okay. I tended to be thoughtful in my approach, and I tended to do what I could to break down as best I could and understand not just the music, but also the lyrics and the concepts and the way these things were put together. So I did all right. Innovation, I'll give myself a 4 because I came up with a rating scale. Nobody else is doing that I know of. So I'm going to go with give myself a 4. For the technicality, well, I'm not even sure how to rate that. I would say if we talk about that in terms of how I put the episodes together and what I put in as far as editing and graphics and all that, yeah, it was a bit above average. I think I probably put a bit more bells and whistles on there, maybe a bit more bells and whistles that are necessary or even appreciated. We'll get to that later. And so I'll give myself maybe 4 on that. Emotional, I don't know. What do I give an emotional for my job as a reviewer? You know what? I'll do what I always do. I'll give it a 3. So what's that add up to? There we go. That gets us 11, 14.75. Divide that by 4, 3.75. Whatever. Good enough, I suppose. I did all right. There are definitely people out there that are better than this. When you talk about the intellectual side, there are reviewers out there that are so much pithier and so much better with the turn of phrase than I am, and so much more creative in their writing. Immediately, I honestly, I think my biggest hero in the review world as far as prog reviews is Ian over at Rhyme Signatures. Dude, if I could write like you could, I I would consider myself an accomplished man. I can't do that. And it's one of those things that shines that light. Comparison is the thief of joy. And when I watch Ian's reviews, I feel so little joy for myself and my ability as a reviewer. So yeah, I don't know. I maybe did better than some, worse than others, middle of the pack. I can't say I was overly impressive and overly impressed with my work. I did all right. I think I did a pretty good job. Hopefully I shared some things that were interesting to folks. Hopefully you found something to enjoy in it all. My final thought on how I felt about doing reviews.
Hated it.
Yeah, that about sums it up pretty clearly right there. Hated it. Don't want to do it anymore. It's too much to keep up with, too much work. I don't especially enjoy talking about the work of other people who can do things that I cannot do. Certainly, I'm happy in many ways to talk about how I enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it or what I liked or what I didn't like. But oftentimes, it was just a matter if I felt like I was not giving effusive praise, I felt bad. I felt guilty for expressing critical thoughts about other people's work. And frankly, the pace of doing it just got to be a grind. So, yeah, what that means is we're not going to be doing album reviews on Bleeding Edge anymore. You might have noticed I haven't done any yet this year, and I'm not going to do any. I shouldn't say not any. I actually have a thought for something I will be doing that'll be a little bit of a change up for it. So it won't be totally gone. The rating system's going to go. We'll figure out what I can do about it. If I can't write it well enough, I may not do it at all, but I'm not doing the rating system anymore because I won't be doing enough album reviews if I do them to make it worth my time. So that may bring up the question, what is coming in 2026, Dave? So the new year means new things. We try to change things up a little bit, try to do something different, bring something else to the channel. If I'm not doing album reviews on a regular basis, what am I going to be doing? Well, of course, I'm still going to do interviews as much as I can. That's the thing I came here to do. That's the thing I was already enjoying before I got to YouTube. And that's the thing I want to continue to do. I love talking with artists about what they do and what their work, how they enjoy it, what they get inspired by, how they came out with what they just came out with, what they like in other artists' music, that kind of stuff. That part is what I enjoy, those chats, those interviews. I'm going to keep doing that, of course. As I mentioned, I'm going to be looking towards maybe doing a monthly featured album. And this will be an album that really stood out for me for the month, the one I liked best for the month. And, therefore I can go in and talk about an album that I really, really enjoy and not worry about criticizing it. It is what it is. We all have our little idiosyncrasies, and that's mine, where I feel ever so slightly neurotic about criticizing people's work, especially people I might be interviewing. That's always been the problem. I don't want to give great reviews because I interviewed somebody And I don't want to give bad reviews to somebody I just talked with and felt like I had a connection with and might want to talk to again in the future. So there we go. That's where I'm going to live in that space as much as I can. So it's going to happen. And at the suggestion of one individual that may come up in a moment, I may throw in addition to one featured album monthly and one, we'll say, obscure find, under the radar pick, something like that. A band that doesn't have one of the big albums of the month. It's not going to be like my obscure pick's going to be Neil Morris Band. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of you watching this now are familiar with Neil Morris. Shouldn't be a problem. So I'll try to find some things as much as I can that are under the radar. And that may be what I'll do. I'll do those as a pair every month. See how that goes. Meanwhile, I am also giving a lot of thought to getting back to, I only did 2 of them last year, and one for Sleep Token, one for Muse, but getting back to doing reactions. Does mean I have to be a little careful about not immediately clicking on the next new big prog song that I come across so I can listen to it immediately. I have to hold off and think for the future and think, you know what? Hey, this is a high-profile prog song coming out. Maybe I'll do a reaction to this and listen to it for the first time in a video. Also, keeping up with the prog adjacent stuff I had been following. And that includes things, prog adjacent or prog, actual prog, but that includes getting back to bands Mr. Bungle and Cardiacs and the Lennon Claypool Delirium or Claypool Lennon Delirium, whichever it is. They're delirious. They don't know. I don't know. Stuff like that. Things that I started digging into but didn't get too far into. And, filling out my knowledge about the things I have missed along the way. It won't be necessarily just new music. So that'll be a thing. I'd be curious what you all think about that. Lord knows I still get feedback on occasion from those Mr. Bungle and Cardiac albums. Man, passionate fan bases. All right, and probably the biggest thing I plan on doing in this coming year is something that will happen at least once, but I hope is going to be a regular feature on Bleeding Edge, and that's a little project called the Prog Council. And the Prog Council, I'm emphasizing that because it feels like I run it together when I say it. The Prog Council, it's going to be a gathering of individuals, notables within the progosphere, whether they be podcasters, YouTubers, writers, people who are notable for their interest in and their enjoyment of progressive rock, joined every episode with an artist from the world of progressive rock, not for an interview, but for a discussion, for like a little panel discussion kind of thing, talking about the issues of the day, interesting things going on, stuff like that. And at this moment, at least there are some individuals I know already lined up for this, and they'll include people like Paul Zotter and Ken Gregory, my friends from the Progressive Palaver podcast, or Jordan Blum, writer for Loudwire and Prog Magazine and What Culture and stuff like that. And the first episode at this point is slated to feature the one and only Randy McStein joining us to discuss a little topic of the day. We haven't decided exactly which one. We're planning that out still, but that is coming soon. And we plan to do that regularly, and we plan to rotate guests and panelists in and out and see what kind of fun we can have with that, because I think there are definitely some cool things we have planned for that. So that's maybe the big announcement, that is coming your way. We even have a really cool logo, so keep your eye on that. Meanwhile, what else is going on, you might ask? What else indeed? What other things are happening? Well, some you may have already noticed. Some may be in the works. Some may depend on what you tell me. And that is, basically tweaks, updates, changes. I endeavor, at least each year that I've been doing this, to try and freshen up the channel periodically and change up the look, change up the style, try to refine the look and improve upon things as best I can here and there as we go along. Try not to do it too frequently because I don't want things to feel chaotic. But at the other hand, I like to have a good, consistent channel brand. And you may have noticed little tweaks and changes that have already occurred without a much fanfare, really. We have a new update on Proggy the Progbot, our mascot for the channel. Dates all the way back nearly 6 years at this point in time when Bleeding Edge debuted as a radio show on Toxic Radio Network, which is an online radio station that no longer exists. But that's where it all started, and that was our original logo, and we have a new, a little bit beefed up, a little bit styled up, a little bit buffed up version of Proggy now on the loose. You probably have seen him in the thumbnails and the logo, all that. In addition, he is making appearances in the new channel end card, which is brand new and fresh. I think used for the first time in the last video. Also, a little bit of an update on the title intro, the title of the show intro reveal, logo reveal, those words. You probably saw that at the beginning of this one. That's new. A new like and subscribe button like this right here. What are you doing? Like and subscribe while you're looking at this. But, you know, those little tweaks, those little improvements here and there that I try to do. And you'll see there's a little, new frame around me. Actually made to match up with the look of Proggy. Now, that's where I'm getting to the point of your feedback. I'm curious. So since I started this channel way, way, way back, somewhere along the line, as a free download from one of the various production elements, organizations, might have been Envato, I don't know, it might have been Motion Array. One of them was monthly mailing out free downloads. And what happened was I found this little background around me. This mobile metal looking hexagon thing. Loved it. Still love it. Always have loved it. It to me, it's just represented, I think, the idea of the channel, at least very much the original idea of Bleeding Edge, which was a focus on progressive metal. And metal that's on that edge is, progressive rock that's on the hard side of things, whatever you want to say. It fit for me. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It went well with Proggy. And so I've been using it ever since. I endeavored to make sure I could always find a way to use it. Well, at the same time, I felt I didn't just want to throw my image over top of it, a square over top of that, so I put a frame on it. I decided the old frame was looking a little ratty. I wanted a new frame. The new frame's pretty good. I'm not totally in love with it, but then it dawns on me, and I even had this conversation with my girlfriend. Does anybody out there give a rat's ass about the frame in the background besides me? No, seriously. Anybody at all? Does anybody care? I have this fear that literally the only person getting enjoyment out of this being here, thinking it looks okay, is me. And that for the rest of the world, like, nobody else does this stuff. Nobody else is sitting there with a background or a frame, at least just about nobody else. Most people make their lives a lot simpler when it comes time to editing, and they simply record video and put the video up there and edit. And I'm adding all these little bells and whistles and things and transitions and stuff as if I am somehow or other interested in seeing how crazy I can make myself and how much I can melt my brain when it comes to editing. So I'm throwing that out there to you, the viewer. Do you notice it? Do you care? Do you hate it? Do you love it? Is it something that literally hasn't mattered to you one whit at all? In which case, I am the only one who cares about it. Because on one hand, I like that it is part of my channel brand. I like that it's there, and it's just part of the look. But on the other part, I feel like it might be a wee bit masturbatory or self-indulgent, is a more polite way of saying it. That I'm only pleasing myself. So I'm curious your feedback about that. So hopefully in the end, I didn't ramble too terribly long, but I had some thoughts on my mind and some things I wanted to say and some updates I wanted to provide about the channel, and in the end, feedback from you. So that's where we're at. I will leave you to ponder my question, ponder those thoughts, and to anticipate the debut episode of the Prog Council. In the meantime, I'll just leave you with the usual message. Never fear to deviate from the norm, and keep it proggy.